or Vakshami. I'm going to explain. In the end of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, the conclusion of the whole first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is summarized. Krishna's saying in the verse prior to that, by all means, Arjuna, engage yourself in yoga. And then he says the topmost system of yoga, Yoga Uttama, is mind absorbed in me, you're engaged in activities of devotion. So, chapter 7 begins by explaining to Arjuna, I'm going to teach you how to. So, Vakshami, I'm going to explain to you how to perform this topmost system of Shraddhavan Bhajate Yomam. Bhajate, Bhaj, Prabhupada explains, it's the dhatu for bhakti. And it means senses engaged in sense objects, in a mood of service to the master of the senses. So that's what the body does. And with the mind absorbed in me, we engage in practical activities of devotion. And Krishna says, I'm going to explain how to. That's a big promise. So we just read carefully, we'll know how to. All those how-to questions people ask a lot. Just read chapter 7 to chapter 12 and you'll know how to. Because Krishna keeps his word. He says how to. And after explaining chapter 6, chapter 7, and chapter 8, Krishna then again says, touch Shrinu, hear from me. So Krishna speaking and we're supposed to hear. That's this Kirtanam, Krishna speaking, and Shravanam, our hearing. And the process of yoga, which Krishna is saying one should follow, yoga meaning linking with the Supreme. The spiritual life means linking with the Supreme. Spiritual life means yoga, linking with the Supreme. And it begins with the hearing process. We say, chant and be happy. But the chanting has a purpose. The chanting makes him sound, which is incomplete without hearing. So, this is Canto 7 of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Prahlad Maharaj is having a discussion with his father, Hiranyakashipu, and his father wants to know, what's the best thing that you've learned from your teachers? Because he doesn't know that he had the best of all teachers, Narada Muni. He's thinking Shanda and Marka, those teachers. So he says, the best thing that I've learned, iti pungsharpitao vishnau, bhakti's chain navalakshana. There's 9 characteristics, navalakshana. And it begins with hearing. The process of bhakti begins with hearing. The very elaborate purport, 2.5 pages full of detail on the bhakti process in general. And then I'd like to read what he says, the first of the 9 processes. Is Shravanam, right? You know what the 9 processes are? Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. Not familiar with that? You've heard it? Yeah. Okay. So the bhakti process begins with Shravanam. Before you do Kirtanam, you got to do Shravanam. You have to hear the holy name before you can say the holy name. And even when you're saying the holy name, it's not going to be fully effective unless you're hearing what you're saying or someone is saying. Tat Shrinu. So here's Prabhupada's words. Hearing of the holy name of the Lord, Shravanam, is the beginning of devotional service. Although any one of the 9 processes is sufficient in chronological order, the hearing of the holy name of the Lord is the beginning. Indeed, it is essential. As enunciated by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is cleansed of the material conception of life, which is due to the dirty modes of material nature. When the dirt is cleansed from the core of one's heart, one can realize the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Thus, by hearing the holy name of the Lord, one comes to the platform of understanding the personal form of the Lord. That was pretty quick. Some steps in between, but okay. After realizing the Lord's form, one can realize the transcendental qualities of the Lord. And when one understands his transcendental qualities, one can understand the Lord's associates. In this way, a devotee advances further and further toward complete understanding of the Lord as he awakens in realization of the Lord's holy name, transcendental form and qualities, his paraphernalia, and everything pertaining to him. Therefore, the chronological process is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnuhu. This same process of chronological understanding holds true in chanting and remembering. When the chanting of the holy name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia is heard from the mouth of a pure devotee, his hearing and chanting are very pleasing. Srila Sanatana Goswami has forbidden us to hear the chanting of an artificial devotee or non-devotee. Paragraph. Hearing from the text of Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the most important process of hearing. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of transcendental chanting of the holy name, and therefore the chanting and hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam but the chanting and hearing are transcendentally full of mellows. The transcendental holy name of the Lord may be heard and chanted according to the attraction of the devotee. One may chant the holy name of Lord Krishna, or one may chant the holy name of Lord Rama or Nrsingadev. Rama di Murtushakala Niyamena Tishtan. The Lord has innumerable forms and names, and devotees may meditate upon a particular form and chant the holy name according to his attraction. The best course is to hear of the holy name, form, and so on from a pure devotee of the same standard as oneself. In other words, one who is attached to Krishna should chant and hear from other pure devotees who are also attached to Lord Krishna. The same principle applies for devotees attracted by Lord Ram, Lord Nrsinga, and other forms of the Lord. Because Krishna is the ultimate form of the Lord, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, it is best to hear about Lord Krishna's name, form, and pastimes from a realized devotee who is particularly attracted by the form of Lord Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, great devotees like Shukadeva Goswami have specifically described Lord Krishna's holy name, form, and qualities, and thus one hears about the holy name, form, and qualities of the Lord, one cannot clearly understand the other processes of devotional service. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that one chant the holy name of Krishna, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. If one is fortunate enough to hear from the mouth of realized devotees, he is very easily successful on the path of devotional service. Therefore, hearing of the holy name, form, and qualities of the Lord is essential. There's one more paragraph. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.11, there is this verse. In this verse that he's citing here, it's in the introduction of every single volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's an important verse. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokim abhadyavatsvapi namanyanantasya yashon kataniyat shrinvanti gayanti grananti sadavaha. Very nice sounding, huh? Let's do it again. You know the verse? Tadvar visargo janak anka viplavo yasmin pratishlokim abhadyavatsvapi namanyanantasya yashon kataniyat Shinvanti Gayanti Grananti Sadavaha. I bet you want to know what the meaning is. Here's the meaning. Verses describing the name, form, and qualities of Anantadev, the unlimited Supreme Lord, are able to vanquish all the sinful reactions of the entire world. Therefore, even if such verses are improperly composed, devotees hear them, describe them, and accept them as bona fide and authorized. In this connection, Sridhar Swami has remarked that a pure devotee takes advantage of another pure devotee by trying to hear from him about the holy name, form, and qualities of the Lord. If there is no such opportunity, he alone chants and hears the Lord's holy name. The effort that Srila Prabhupada put forward on behalf of his spiritual master was to make this process, hearing and chanting, and devotional process available to everybody. And very empowered distributor of that sound vibration indeed. Not only because of the use of technology and other practical ways of getting that sound vibration out, but by his purity. And with purity comes, purity is the force. Purity is very powerful. So emphasis several times in this little section, hearing from a pure devotee. As far as possible, Prabhupada, this is just reciting the in introductory section of Brahma Samhita written by Bhaktisiddhanta. As far as possible, chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee. Otherwise, chanting may be like milk touched by the lips of a serpent. It has poisonous effects. So we want to hear from the right source. And the hearing is quantitative and qualitative, both. But quantitative doesn't compensate or can't replace qualitative. Quantitative can help us get to qualitative. But qualitative hearing is how to go forward in the bhakti path. We spent some time during the 4th of July weekend discussing on the Festival of the Holy Name this topic of rapt attention. Rapt attention is a phrase that's used by Sutta Goswami, describing how the hearing process should be done. And when one gives rapt attention, then all perfection can come quickly. Supposing we don't have rapt attention, supposing we have distracted attention, then it's going to proceed slowly. Your kitchen is right over here, right? Yeah. And so, supposing it's time to do cooking for the family, and you turn on the stove and you put some rice in a pot and a little salt and some water, and you put the pot 3 feet above the flame of the stove. It's going to take a while for the rice to cook. Not just making the flame hotter, it's going to reach maximum hot, full blast, but you put the pot close to the flame, and then the rice will cook more quickly. Similarly, the hearing process is qualitatively better or weaker depending upon how careful you are in hearing. So the hearing has a qualitative dimension. And when hearing is done in a qualitative way, quantitative also, but in a qualitative way, then it's like bringing the pot right next to the flame. The attentiveness that you give to the hearing process has the effect of controlling the mind. We'll say it in the reverse. If you're not hearing, your mind is not controlled. Say it the other way. If you're hearing carefully, your mind is controlled. In all of the yoga processes, the mind, controlling the mind, is imperative. Say it negatively. You cannot make progress in the path of yoga without controlling the mind. Say it positively. Any yoga system will require, it'll have a built-in part controlling the mind. Even in worldly things, what to speak of yoga. Supposing, well, it's summertime, so you don't have to worry about school, but supposing, September rolls around and school starts, and you're not paying attention to your studies. Your mind is distracted by who knows what. You're not going to do well in school. To do well in driving your car, or in sports, or cooking in the kitchen, supposing you're not paying attention. Anything could happen in the kitchen instead of, something nice. You have to do anything worldly, what to speak of spiritual. And the process of bringing the mind to become your best friend instead of your greatest enemy, because if the mind isn't controlled, it's the greatest enemy. In spiritual processes, it's sometimes very severe. The severe austerities and penances and so on and so on. And it can make one powerful, but it can also be dissipated just in a flash by distraction and so forth. It's not really, it's an artificial or mechanical method of controlling the mind. It's not what spiritual life means, or it's not the fulfillment, not the mature stage. The mature stage of spiritual life is when the mind is controlled, and thus directing the senses towards service of the master of the senses. say that, come back to that point and say the same thing in a different way. We have this nice definition of bhakti. One of the two significant ones is from Narada Pancharatra. And you know this one, Sarvapadi Vinir Muktam. What's the rest? Tat Paratvaina Nirmalam. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. You've heard that one before? Yeah. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. Rishikesha, that's Krishna. Rishikena, as our senses are meant for the service, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. We use our senses to serve Rishikesh, master of the senses. Bhakti Ruchate. It is said that bhakti is using the senses in the service of the master of the senses. But the senses won't do that unless the mind is oriented properly. I mean, intermittent. It's called anishtita bhakti, or the sine curve. So unsteady bhakti is like that. And steady bhakti is where the mind, because when the senses are properly engaged, it helps to control the mind. But the most important sense to control, one might say, is the tongue. But if the tongue sense, the tasting and the vibrating, isn't connected to the ear, the mind isn't going to be controlled. We can be chanting, and our mind is all over the place. But if you're hearing, the mind becomes controlled. And according to what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text number 8, for one who has controlled the mind, super soul is already reached. That is to say, you can, like Prabhupada is saying in the purport, then you can understand the form of Krishna. Just by hearing. Say it negatively. You won't understand Krishna if the mind is not controlled, at least reasonably. So our process of chanting the holy name, the chanting of the holy name, is to give us opportunity to hear, because the first is really hearing. We know what mantra to chant because we've heard the mantra. But then if you don't hear the mantra that you're chanting, you won't capture the mind. And that doesn't bring joy. It brings something else. Then, it's the mind is the greatest enemy. How to capture the mind? By hearing. So that's our spiritual discipline. It's the beginning stage of spiritual discipline. Not only committing to a certain amount, qualitative, certain amount of chanting each day. We do that. We're encouraged to do that. And after doing that for some time, then you realize that's not sufficient, because the chanting is distracted, the mind is wandering. So how do you get the mind to stop wandering? Not easy. The mind is balavad and chantala, very strong and very flickering, very difficult, but it's possible. So Krishna says it's possible by constant practice and detachment, but the constant practice of what? Constant practice of hearing. So emphasis is given here. I'm going to conclude shortly, because this is our Sunday program, and if there's newer people online, the attention span is less. So we have the opportunity through chanting to then also hear the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we heard some references about the power of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadhavaha. It's that nice verse, 1.5.11. Tadvag Vasargo Janata Agha Viplava. Janata, people in general. Agha, sins or sinful tendency. Viplava is kaboom, explosion. Viplava brings about a revolution in the impious lives of people in general. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Embedded within Srimad Bhagavatam are names of Krishna, but form of Krishna, qualities of Krishna, pastimes of Krishna, associates of Krishna, 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 Krishna Katha, or Hari Katha. And that has immense potency to kaboom. Transform the impious lives of people in general. It's literature meant for this age of Kali. It's a literature meant to transform the lives of people in general. So it's a perfect combination. Chanting of the holy name, hearing of the holy name, and hearing of the message of Srimad Bhagavatam from suitable sources. And in the combination of those two, the cleansing of the heart, the awakening of the tendency to be in service to Krishna, starting with the tongue and the ear, Shravanam, Kirtanam, and then follow the mind and the other senses progressively to re-spiritualize our lives, and by broadcasting this message, then the message, that same opportunity goes to others. So that's our topic, is hearing, Shravanam. The spiritual process begins with hearing. During the Festival of the Holy Name, played a really short 3-4 minute video clip of Srila Prabhupada speaking about this. I was attending the class. I didn't see my picture when they were scanning the audience, but Prabhupada was speaking about how the Hare Krishna movement began, and he was speaking on this same point. The sound vibration, whether people could understand, didn't understand, doesn't matter. Whether they were attracted, not attracted, doesn't matter. The sound vibration was beneficial for everyone. It created an atmosphere of auspiciousness, and that's how the whole Hare Krishna movement began. And now it's spread beyond that little storefront in New York, and then the streets of New York City, and it's spread all over the place, all around the world. But it's just, that was his faith in sound vibration being purifying in a place that's not pure. He knew very well. From his arrival in the Boston Harbor, he knew this is the place infested with ignorance and passion. How are they going to understand Shuddha Sattva? Mission impossible. But the mission impossible became possible through sound vibration, vibrating, people hearing from a proper source, and people hearing became affected, as we all know. So that's our life, is hearing. I don't know if those of you in the room hear Srila Prabhupada's recorded lectures regularly. Please do. It's purifying, because the broadcasting source is pure. And hearing his classes, there's a lot of energy. I mean, like his voice. Sometimes you could tell from hearing his classes, he was not well. His voice was kind of not strong, but even then, after beginning speaking, his voice would pick up. He would get energy, and it was like, roar. And then when he was well, it was he right to the point, very strong. Not just, challenging kind of strong, but, pure kind of strong. And hearing his recorded lectures, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam being discussed as we're doing, hearing the chanting of the holy name as we did at the very beginning, and as we do presumably each morning when we get up in the morning, it's our emphasis on quality of hearing to bring the mind under control and connect with Krishna. Super soul is reached that way. We're connecting with Krishna through the ear. Before we see Krishna, we'll hear Krishna. And then his form, as it's mentioned. And then his qualities, his activities. So let's see if there's some discussion. Purposely keeping the discussions short. So we've been advised to rotate back and forth between people that may want to say something that are here with us in the room, and then we'll go to online and back and forth. So our host and hostess, you get the first shot at this if you want.
Guru Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. Actually, today you were talking about hearing, which is a coincidence because...
Really?
Yeah, because Nectar of Devotion, Shatrugna Mataji was giving us chapter 10.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's like we got an extended class and additional. So it was so good. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for that.
Okay.
And I do have a few questions. I don't know if I can ask all of them.
You can ask all of them. You got the microphone. We won't take it from you.
Okay. Guru Maharaj, we make it a point to offer to Krishna and then take prasadam.
What?
We make it a point to offer to Krishna and then take prasadam every day.
Okay.
However, I know that my mood and my consciousness is not where it should be when we do the offerings. That said, is this an anartha that I'm cultivating? How do I do it the right way?
Get out your compass and do some course correction. It's the process of bhakti is gradual refinement. And let me ask you a question. When will you reach the stage where you're saying, now I'm doing it right? Will you ever reach that stage?
I'll perhaps not know.
No, not just you. Not just you.
No,
When will we say, I'm there? The bell rang. Boom! I reached perfection. We're not going to come to that stage. So there's always the refinement, and I'm using this course correction. We're realigning ourselves, alignment with the goal, and we're always striving to reach the goal. And the more you're reaching the goal, the more you'll feel more deeply, real humility. I'm not there. Kabhi habhi bolo se di namar. Yeah.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. So I have a couple of more. So this is regarding Krishna counting on gems to keep track of calves.
Yeah,
Yesterday's
you heard that class?
Yeah, I'm listening to your class every day.
Okay, good.
So, did Krishna ever steal somebody else's calf like he stole butter? In view of this, what is the significance of butter? Why is it so much dear to him more than cows and calves?
Well, he didn't steal calves, and what's significant about butter is he's the proprietor of everything anyway, so he's not stealing anybody's anything. But he did so to turn the emotions of those who thought the butter was theirs. But they had such love for Krishna, they were fine with his stealing. In chapter 8 of Canto 10, there's details and details of Krishna's butter stealing. And, one of the things Mother Jasoda would say is, just give him butter. He said, we try, but he doesn't take when we give it. He just likes to steal. And he finds many creative ways to steal, and then let's go off describing his creative ways of stealing. But it's not because he's by nature a thief, because it's already his. It's by his nature to turn the emotions of those who have love for him in different ways. In very creative ways. It's just churning the emotions of those who have love for him. So sometimes when a child is naughty, it's to get attention by their naughtiness. But, in the case of Krishna, it's not to get attention, it's to give attention. And then in the varieties of ways, because sometimes aside from stealing butter, he would stand and they would clap and say, we'll give you half a sweetmeat if you dance. And he'd smile and he would dance, controlled like a puppet by the puppeteer. And then they would say, sing. And he'd sing. They'd say, there's an object, bring the object. And he'd go toddle over and pick up the object and place it on his chest or hold it to his chest and toddle back. So he would do things of all kinds of very sweet ways, including stealing. Because then they would, it was just a different emotion. It was just churning emotions. And he liked butter. But he didn't steal cows or calves.
One final one, Maharaj. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Yesterday I read a quote, one of your quotes, which said, the mind is a repository of lifetime of thoughts, impressions, attachments, and aversions. That was a quote I read.
Okay.
Applying this to myself, it looks like I carry a lot of baggage. How do I use this lifetime to erase all of the unfavorable baggage?
How to get rid of the baggage?
Yeah, how to get rid of the baggage? Is it even possible?
Oh, yeah. That's the program. Spring cleaning. You get a dumpster, put it out in your front lawn, and carry stuff out, put it in a dumpster. So, but that's the physical stuff, and then there's the subtle stuff. So that's the Cheta Darpana Marjanam part, the cleansing that comes, and how quickly or how slowly it'll happen. A lot depends upon the hearing, the quality, the intensity of effort that we make to hear. But it's not like when you try to make intense effort. Okay, now I did it. It's the recognition that I can't do it without mercy. Then that's the fulfillment of intense effort. Is you become you eager for the mercy, so that the mind will go to Krishna. That's how to get rid of that baggage. And it can take a long time or a short time, depending.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay. We're ready for online questions. And you just hold it, you give it to your good wife. She'll have some. Think of something. Go ahead.
This question is from Radha Gopinath Prabhu. His question is, what qualities should one develop in order to have a progressive devotional and spiritual life?
Start with humility. That's a good place. The Shikshastaka tells you what qualities. There are 4, but it starts with humility. Trunadapi sunichena. Or amanadvam adambitvam. That chapter 13, text 8 through 12. Start with humility. And then humility with spiritual conception. So how do you get a spiritual conception? Well, you hear Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and it will cleanse the material, exactly what we read. It removes the material conception from the mind and gives, instead of the material, the spiritual conception. So real humility means with a spiritual conception. That's where to start. And then the rest follow.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for coming. And I was when you were giving the lecture, I was able to see all the slides which Mataji showed.
No kidding.
The one slide which I really liked is the Krishna is standing here, right here, and the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is here. So he's just waiting to enter the ear. So it's our choice to do. To make Krishna enter the ear. So the whole time I could see that picture, Maharaj. Yeah.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah, it was a wonderful class. I don't have any question, Maharaj.
You're a visual person like some of the rest of us.
Yeah, I'm a visual person. Yeah.
Did you see the Festival of the Holy Name? The very last slide in the 5 tools shows on the left side the profile of someone speaking, and then there's this thing that it's the Mahamantra, but you can't tell it, and then there's Krishna over there listening.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
That's a good image too for visual people. I've been meditating on that every morning since then. It's a nice.
The picture is like right here, and she was telling that once we do that, the heart, it has one more ear, so it will listen.
Heart has one more ear. The Bhakti, it's similar to Bhaktisiddhanta's phrase. He says the spiritual ear, hear with the spiritual ear. Okay, you can give the microphone to them. They're next, but you go ahead online for next.
This question is from Radhika, Kirti Prabhu's daughter, 9-year-old. I know I have to chant, but I don't like chanting. How can I get myself to chant?
How can I get myself to chant?
Yeah.
Have you found that anything work for you? Supposing you close your eyes and depend you're not you. Depend you're not your mind saying, no, I don't like to chant. Put your mind in a parking lot over there and say, I'll come back later, and bring your ear to the sound. Another way of saying the same thing is supposing when you're chanting that you don't like to do, you're looking to Krishna and you're looking to call Krishna. You're doing it for the pleasure and happiness and the being with Krishna, just to be with Krishna. That's the mind's over there in the parking lot. You're bringing your attention to a relationship with Krishna that's forgotten. It's not so palpable or so heart-stirring at the moment, but your very best friend, and you're reaching out to your very best friend, wishing to remember how important that relationship of your very best friend meant to you before. You're trying to make that connection. I mean, find something, or some other method, something that doesn't allow the affinity for temporary material sensation, material happiness, to be nagging and dragging your mind. Look for something that, for you, helps you get connected to Krishna. and then you discuss with your parents and get some ideas, and you work on those. If you make an effort, you'll find a way, and you'll then that doesn't mean all of a sudden you're going to start liking chanting, but it's sweet. All of the sweetness of Krishna is, and this everything is within the name. But we're diseased, so we take our medicine even we don't think it's nice, but it's very nice, very beneficial. Anything?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful lecture. I have a question. Earlier when you were reading about the Bhagavatam part, Prahlad Maharaj, you mentioned Lord is in different forms. People worship, like some people
Yes.
worship Krishna,
Yes.
some worship as Rama and Narsimhadev. For me, when I cry out, my heart cries out to God, I just feel the same feeling to Krishna, Rama, or the Supreme Lord, my Father in heaven. Is that the way to do, or how do I progress?
Well, you're doing fine. If you call out from your heart like that, you're doing fine. And in course of time, there you may find some affinity towards one of the forms or leelas or associates of the Lord, are you resonate especially. And for now, you're doing fine. And as you go further, you may find some particular affinity. Yeah.
One more question. That's Radha Kunjbihari Prabhu asked about the baggage from past life.
Okay.
I think that's what I understood. So we hear even if we do good karma or akarma, still the baggage from the past life, does it get nullified? Like, do we get rid of that by doing chanting and hearing or growing in Krishna consciousness?
Well, the potency is there for that to happen, yes. And my answer is, depending upon the strength of effort that we make and eagerness to receive mercy that we reach out for, it'll happen more quickly or more slowly. You can say proportionate to, directly proportionate to. Then the eradication of anarthas or unwanted things, the baggage, will take place slowly or quickly, proportionate to the effort we make and the eagerness to receive mercy. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay?
This question is from Ram Kishore Prabhu. During this pandemic, how do we balance safety for health and going out on Harinam Sankirtan?
You may have to do it electronically. Find ways to broadcast the holy name electronically. I don't know of anybody that's doing public Sankirtan during the pandemic. Now, maybe it's going on, I don't know about it, but I don't know about it. I mean, just like some detail. Even when in churches where they did some reopening, they had the choir social distance, but what happens when you sing, it seems to, whatever they call it, it's transmitted through the air. So when you sing in a group of people, it's more exposure to danger. The risk level is higher, because that's kind of what the question is. So they do it, modestly and not public, probably, unless you, because we have the Bhakti Center in New York had a 12-hour kirtan or something, but it was all done electronically or by Zoom. So over here, there's a few people, and they did for half an hour. And over there, some other people. we kind of did the same thing for the Festival of the Holy Name. And that's just congregational chanting by people turning into Zoom. Then it becomes safe. Okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for wonderful lecture. I have actually two questions.
Okay. I hope you have two answers.
One one question is chanting. So I do chant regularly, but my chanting is not consistent. I do chant 16 rounds or more, but some days I chant only 3 to 4 rounds. It has been very difficult in last 6 months because of the COVID situation, and I work in hospital.
Oh.
So I try to chant, and I used to chant actually way more than 16, but lately it's going down and down and down. How can I be more consistent chanting?
Well, wait till COVID gets over. I guess you'll be back to more consistent. But until then, one of the best ways, having been involved in chanting for a few years, that one of the best ways is first thing in the morning. So I don't know if you probably are getting up early in the morning anyways, but if you can somehow leverage when you take rest so that you have some morning time, that's just your chanting time. And it just becomes sacred and you don't let anything else get into that space. That's the best way I know.
Yeah, that's the time most of my chanting's done early morning.
So leverage, since you're inconsistent of late, this is just a recommendation. It's not like a silver bullet, but figure out how much time you need to chant what you feel you need to chant and how much rest you need before you get up in the morning, and then schedule yourself to take rest at such and such time so you can get up at this other time. You can do your fixed chanting. And you'll find, as everyone else, every one of us has found, I'm sure from your own previous, when you were chanting regularly, consistently, everything else, the day moves differently because consciousness is different, because you've done, and it's the commitment to do so in addition to the doing so. If you can manage that, your day will be different. And then the next day and the next day, your trajectory of your life until the COVID thing does you'll spiritualize your existence by managing that one thing better. And the best way I know is early in the morning, and it's just really simple to take rest at the right time so you can get up at the right time so you can do your chanting with focus and not compromised. Just don't let anything else into that space.
Thank you, Maharaj. Second question is...
Put your phone somewhere else. Shut it off. No. Not now, but when you're doing your chanting, just like no distractions. You got your blinders on, if they're calling you from the medical workplace, your phone's off. If it's really an emergency, your wife can tell you it's an emergency and something. Anyway, I'm just take all precautions possible, realistic, so that you stay focused.
Thank you.
Okay.
The second question is, Maharaj, that we are actually, personally me, I'm associated with ISKCON for almost 8 years, and I feel like I'm not progressing the way I should be. What can I do, and how should I move in the right direction? Like I'm involved in ISKCON. I used to go to temple, chanting, listening, all of that. But I do feel something is missing. I'm not in the right direction.
Not in the right.
I'm not progressing as I feel like.
There was some final remark you made. I just wanted to catch it. This is my throat. What does your wife say? Your better half.
I think she's more dedicated.
No, but what when you discuss this with her, what advice does she give? I'm asking that seriously because someone that knows you well, they know your strengths and they know your shortcomings, and they can probably give some good insight into. I don't need an answer publicly right now, but this is between the two of you. You could have that discussion, or once you get something of an idea or two, then seek support to support that effort to go further. Because some of us have blind spots. We can't see what others can see that know us well. We can ask them, "What's my blind spot?" And they can, you open the door, and someone's likely to walk in and say, "This is an area that I think if this is really good, this is really good, that's really good. Here's room for improvement area, and I'd be glad to support it." So, using that example, here's second. Using that example of the cooking of rice in the kitchen, attentiveness will bring quicker cooking, quicker advancement. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, of all the different processes of improving, the main, and this is specifically to overcoming the offenses, the main ingredient is the desire to do so. So you're bringing the question means there's a desire to do so. So now ramp that up. Or do you really want to do so? And what is it that's impeding me? Is this introspection? What is it that's impeding me to do so? To really make the kind of progress. So, where there's a will, there's a way. So, and you'll find where the obstacles are. And largely they're not outside, largely they're inside. So commitment to do so is the main ingredient. And you'll find those areas that strengthen, for you, they strengthen your sense of commitment. Now I find hearing. But then, there are persons from whom, when you hear, it strengthens. I would say, if our founder Acharya is the perfect place to go, because he's their principal Shiksha Guru for all of ISKCON. You're part of ISKCON for 8 years. So hear from him on a regular basis, even if it's short, with purposeful attention. That is, I want to receive that spiritual sound vibration in my heart. It can be, for extended time, but even just like a commitment to Prabhupada and his sound vibration, to hear his sound vibration with your heart as open as you can make it for some period of time each day. I don't know, however you do that, with your schedule and your commitments in life. But very purposeful. That's to connect with this commitment to make more progress. I want this pure sound vibration to enter my heart. And then when something moves, you stay with that something that has moved. Do something or refrain from something. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam, accepting things favorable, rejecting things unfavorable. That comes when you hear, and you're connecting with the founder Acharya, the principal Shiksha Guru, and you're hearing because you want your heart to be open to make further progress than you have been doing for the past 8 years. You invite him in and he'll do his thing. Then you stay with that movement that happened. And you're connecting with him. You're feeling something. You're feeling a relationship. And there's some really outstanding biographies about Prabhupada that I'm speaking now, strengthening your relationship with Prabhupada. All of these, but because it's the principal founder, Acharya, pure devotee connection for everybody in ISKCON. So some of the writings about Prabhupada's life are just outstanding. One of my favorite ones, there's several, but one of them is Yogeshwara's. What's the title of the book? Swami in a Strange Land. Really well written. But once you start to feel closer to Prabhupada, the heart moves. The connection, movement of the heart towards he who is taking, in a super empowered way, taking people closer to Krishna, which is what you want. Connect to Prabhupada and you'll connect to feeling closer to Krishna. And then you'll want to read other ones and other ones. Something that I've done with young people, looking at both of you now, is inviting a summer reading project, a devotional reading project. Have you thought about doing that? Summer's halfway over already. Huh?
We could do it.
You could.
Yeah, but we haven't, or I don't know, I haven't thought about it.
I haven't thought about doing it either.
Okay. There's time. Now there's time to kind of like chill out because when school's on, it's intense. But it's also a time to, spiritually connect. And number of the books that are specifically biographies about Prabhupada or biographies about devotees of Prabhupada. One of the ones that the Life of Pure Devotion, Jamuna, Life of Unalloyed Devotion. You know Jamuna, the one who sings the song where we sing when we greet the deities all the time. Govindam Hari Purusham. So that's Jamuna's voice, and she's there's a 2-volume book that's describing her life and her association with Prabhupada, and she's a magical person. So just finding out, like feeling her heart, because she didn't write it; it's a biographer, not autobiography. But there's a website that has her speaking. And anyway, connect with her, and through that book and the website where she's speaking, they're speaking about her, and you'll feel something. You'll learn something. You'll feel lifted and inspired because she's a pure devotee. Okay. The title again is?
The book title is Unalloyed, The Life of Devotion.
You have the book?
Yeah.
You have the book?
Yeah.
Oh. And then there's a website, so you can periodically go and little short clips of her speaking on something.
I'll check it out.
Okay. I'll tell you a little story that she told me. I didn't have much association with her, only towards the very end. But a little bit was powerful because of her purity. She shared that one time George Harrison, they were making a recording, and he really liked her singing voice, and he said, "If you like, I can make you famous. I know how to do it." And he was serious, and she said, "Let me think about it." And 2 days later, she said, "No, thank you. I don't want that lifestyle." So then he said, "All right, well then let's just make a recording." So they made a recording in the Apple Records studio, and one side was the Govinda prayer, and the other side was the Hare Krishna mantra. Now the Govinda prayer, Prabhupada cried when he heard it. And the other side became a #1 selling song in all of Europe for about 3 months. I mean, it had George Harrison's thumbprint on it. He did the orchestrating of all the music and so on and so on and so on, including with the Govinda. If you listen carefully, you can hear the bass. That's George. So, but he was very devotional, and so her singing is so. And wherever she was, she would be the one on stage singing. When there's all these sannyasis and kind of puffed up guys that could also sing nicely, but she was, there's many such stories. Here's another one that's in the book. I didn't read the book. Someone read this section. They were staying at the Tittenhurst estate of John Lennon, because he invited Prabhupada and some devotees. So early in the morning, just Jamuna and Prabhupada going for a walk. And there was a law where they were staying. They couldn't cut the grass. It had to be for whatever the reason was. England, I don't know. And so there was dew in the grass, and she was thinking, following in the footsteps of Prabhupada. So she wanted to follow in his footsteps, but she noticed there was no footsteps. And she looked behind herself, and she saw there were footsteps where she walked. And then she excused herself and asked Prabhupada, "I don't see any footsteps." And he said, "Someday you'll understand why." And the same thing happened in Australia. Another devotee made the same observation. Read the book. It's like, whoa.
Does it have the answer?
Huh?
Does it have the answer?
No. Prabhupada was just transcendental to those kinds of rules. There's no, he didn't offer an explanation, and she didn't say, later I'll realize this is what happened. He's not of this world. In more ways than one. So, do you have the other book, Swami in a Strange Land?
No, that one we don't have.
Okay.
We have a lot of them.
You do?
We have a box.
Oh.
I remember seeing it somewhere.
It's really well written. Swami in a Strange Land. That's for you. You'll like it. And the author is Joshua Green. It's Yogeshwara. I recently wrote to him and asked him, is it true that George asked Prabhupada, "Can I get initiated?" And Prabhupada said no? Or something like that. And he said it wasn't quite like that. He said he wrote back saying, "I wasn't there, but this is what I heard. It's not, may I be initiated, but should I?" Prabhupada, George asked, he heard this. And I was going to follow up and find out from Shyam Sundar, because he probably was there. But Prabhupada's answer was, that's not necessary. You can influence people just through music. And then shortly after that is when he did My Sweet Lord and Madison Square Garden, and it was, a big hit. celebrated song. I want to see you. I want to know you, etc. But Yogeshwar is an excellent writer. Another book is My Sweet Lord. That's a book that he wrote about George because he had his association as well. It's a good author.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah. Microphone.
Me and my brother are both moving out this summer, and I just wanted to know how we can stay true to our faith in like Krishna, while like not going to the temple and being surrounded, and it just makes it easy being surrounded by Krishna. But once we move out, it'll be hard. So I'm just wondering how we could like stay true to our
Move
faith.
out means go to college?
Yeah, I'm going to college.
Okay. Where are you going?
ISU, Illinois State University.
Bloomington. Well, there are devotees that stay connected even remotely during the summer, what to speak of when school starts. There are sanghas of devotees that have morning or evening or weekly or this or that, cyber sangha. And, in course of time, you'll find people that by doing that, you'll find people that you particularly relate well with and probably do something on the side with them. And even if it's really short, because I know two girls that did this, they just read for 15 minutes four times a week or something like that. And they developed a really close relationship because, the 15 minutes of reading, they stuck to it, but then there was another 10 minutes or so of just sharing, what they're going through and their spiritual journey, etc. So, do you know of groups like that? Sanghas, cyber sangha kind of things?
No.
No?
No, but my TSI Sangha group we still meet.
Okay,
So
okay,
maybe-
because that's another resource. But I would recommend Shruti Jairam, and she'll know who might be like you socially, because we like to be with people that we're like. So she may have some suggestions, and she's local. And your TSI group is kind of all over the country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody that's local, and then you can get on a schedule that matches what your schedule's like. And then there's weekend things. That's a recommendation.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. See if you have something after. Go ahead. Online? A lot of online. Go ahead. What?
We can finish on and they're waiting on the portions.
Okay. You're off the hook. Go ahead.
This is from Rukmavati Mataji. How to overcome complacency?
By being enthusiastic.
Then next.
We had a whole discussion on enthusiasm. You can listen to the recordings on enthusiasm. She has them. I told her how to get them. Go ahead.
And this question is from Shamananda Krishna Prabhu from Michigan. If we are reading Krishna Katha, will it have the same effect as hearing it from a pure devotee?
Well, when you're reading it, it's just recorded from the pure devotee. So, yeah, do both. But it'll have the same effect. And then discussed after you read. And then it's even nicer. Then it'll go in.
And this question is from Smita Koticha Mataji from UK. The mind just wanders when chanting, and I guess I'm creating offenses, which can put me off chanting. Hence my every day, off chanting every day. Hence, my chanting is inconsistent. How can I improve?
Welcome. We all know the symptoms that you described, and to keep, because it's a very important and broad question. We'll send you the contact information where you can hear the latest Festival of the Holy Name conversations on that topic. And there's multiple speakers, and I think that you'll benefit by getting a comprehensive answer to your question rather than a 2-minute question to your answer. We'll send you the information, how to get that. Okay?
This question is from Anagha Mataji from Nepal. How can we take the lessons or learnings from everyday reading, she's part of a reading group, and implement it in our daily lives? Should it be based on our interpretation solely, or always clarify with other devotees about their understandings?
Well, you take something that resonates with you, but you also want to do a reality check and make sure that you have understood what the message is, and then you apply it. Okay.
And this is from Amritakeli Mataji. Her question is, since this COVID lockdown began, there's so much communication and access to online classes from all over the world. Obviously, I cannot hear all those classes, though they all seem very important. Could you please help me? How do I prioritize what to hear?
Gee. Ask Prema Tarangani. Because she has the same dilemma, and she knows you, and she can guide you specifically in how to prioritize. Don't. A word of caution is hearing from multiple can make your head spin. So being selective is important. That's it. Okay. You want to be on the hot seat? Is there any question you have?
Thank you for the lecture, Guru Maharaj. I can't really think of a question, but I did appreciate the part of the lecture where you talked about the quality versus quantity aspect of hearing and chanting and all of that.
Okay. So now, going back to the prior question, now prioritize that into an action item for yourself. And consider, not just like, push you against the wall or something, consider how you can take that inspiration and put it, apply it in practical ways in your everyday life. Quality of reading, quality of chanting, quality of kirtan, quality. And, at least, some portion of what you do, you investing some energy in the quality feature and see if that grows. That's, the practical application is where you're really going to make progress. Besides hearing something, feeling inspired, and then some time passes and kind of goes back down again. So the application keeps it up in the fire. Okay. Prabhupada ki jai.